Welcome to Setting the Stage. I'm Brooke Savage. The Cher Show is at the Dr. Phillips Center right now through Sunday. Catherine Ariale plays Lady. She is a version of Cher when she's with Sunny, and Tyler Pirrung plays Bob Mackey. They're both here to tell us all about the show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having us.
So first off, I usually start off with, where are you from and how did you get into acting?
Do you want to go? Oh, I'll go first. I'm from Northern Virginia originally, right outside of DC, the Fairfax area. I got into theater pretty early on. I have many fond memories of my parents playing like the Hairspray soundtrack, the Wicked albums, those kind of things just played in our house, and like Children of Eden was really big in our house growing up. We were a Presbyterian family, so like a church musical was really big for us. So it was always kind of in my world and in my life. I was no stranger to musicals, but I didn't really think about doing it as a profession until high school. I did a play in the 10th grade, and my mom was late to pick me up one day from school, and my theater teacher came up to me and he was like, what are you going to do in college? Like, I said, oh, I'm going to go to William & Mary. I'm going to be a special education teacher, and yeah, that's what I'm going to do, education. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, no, you can do this. And I was like, wait, what? And he goes, you could do this for a living if you want. Like, you're good at it. You could major in it in college. And I got in the car that day and I was like, Mom, Mr. DeLeo said I could do theater for my life. And that like literally it changed my world. And from then we got into classes and I stuck it out and I made it very serious in high school. And then I went to Pace University for musical theater. I got my BFA there, and that was in New York City. And so I've just been there ever since, grinding away, trying to do it for my life. And so yeah, now I've gotten to do this for the last year, which is the coolest thing in the whole world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm a Central Florida boy myself.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Where?
I from Mico, Florida. It's like the bottom end of Brevard County.
Yes.
I usually just say Sebastian because more people know that. I went to Melbourne Central Catholic High School.
Oh my God. Catholic high school.
Yeah, Catholic high school boy. Which I did start in theater. Middle school, I had an English teacher who was offering extra credit if we did scenes from Shakespeare plays.
Sign me up.
And I was at school at like 6:30 in the morning every day for us rehearsing these scenes. And I was like, wait, I'm kind of into this. And then when I went to Catholic high school, we had zero arts at all at school. I think of the 4 years I was there, the biggest the drama program ever was 7 people.
Whoa.
So yeah, it was very underfunded and very unrepresented. So, but I'm the type of person that like, if you put a challenge in my way, I'm like gonna find a way to overcome it. So I was like, no, it's a small program. I'm gonna do it. So yeah, did theater through high school. And then I think it was the summer after my junior year of high school, I did a summer production of Singing in the Rain. And it was like, I think there were 95 of us in the show.
Who were you?
Oh, I was ensemble.
Oh.
But like, who did you think I was? Okay. And doing that, I was like, wait, I think I'm gonna do this. Yes. And then I went to Florida State University and got my BA in theater and have graduated in 2015 and have just been like, again, grinding away, working since, booked this tour last year. And have been just like gallivanting the country doing this. Yeah.
Wow. I love it. I did not know you were from Central Florida. I love to hear that. Well, what made you both want to audition for the Cher Show, and talk us through how you landed your roles?
I got the initial audition like in May of 2023. It came to me from my agent. I did not see it on like the breakdown websites that actors look at. Myself, I probably hadn't looked in a while, but then I got that in my inbox, and I remember when I got that email, I was like, the Cher Show. I was like, I don't know about that. I don't know if I'm right for that. Like, immediately I was like, nah, I don't think I could do it. But I did it anyway. I just like, I remember thinking it would be kind of fun to play around with her mannerisms on tape, because you do an initial self-tape before they bring you into in person. And I held like a remote control in my house because we had to sing I Got You Babe, and I was like, oh, I feel like I should be holding a microphone. Held a remote control in my hand, did like a really big winged eyeliner, played around with her voice, and I was like, well, that was fun. Like moving on to the next, and then I got a call back. And I think I went into the room, like into the physical studio with them to audition like 3 times throughout the summer. Like it was a long process going back in and meeting the team and getting to know them. I remember thinking it was not easy to get to like do a Cher voice in song, but it was more accessible because we have all of her music. You can listen to it, you can mimic it, right? Like it feels very it feels accessible to be able to do that and to like channel that. But the first time I got sides, which are your audition scenes that you have to read in the room, I was like, oh, I'm stumped. I don't know about speaking in her voice. I've never really thought about how she would sound when she talks. And so I remember my partner was helping me prep for the audition in our apartment, and I was like, okay, we're gonna read the sides together. Don't laugh at me. He's like, okay. And so I'm sitting there and I start like the first sentence and he was like, oh my God. And I was like, no, you can't laugh at me. Like I have to do this in front of people. I'm so nervous. I don't know if I'm doing it right. Like I've got no clue. But I worked really hard on, trying to find her mannerisms and going down the rabbit hole of YouTube and watching so many hours of the Sunny and Cher Show to make sure I was doing her justice and figure out, like, because a lot of my callback material was the Vegas scenes, like the quick one-liners and things like that. So I was like, I gotta be dry, I gotta figure out how to do this. And the audition room was unbelievably warm. I know you feel the same, but our director, Casey Hushin, she's phenomenal. She makes you feel like loved and cared for as soon as you walk into a room, which you don't find often in an audition room. Usually it can often be cold or feel a little uncomfortable, and it felt like home. And I was so excited when I kept being asked back because I was like, I want to hang out with those people again. I want to see this crew of people. So yeah, it took a few months, and I think I got the call in August of 2023. Yeah.
Awesome.
Mine did not take a few months. Mine was so quick and easy. Like I keep hearing everyone else's and they're like, I was in it for 6 months. I, again, did an initial self-tape, and the week, I only went into the room twice. Okay. And it was in the same week.
Brag about it.
And it would just happen to be like a week. I was back in the city after a contract, moving out of an apartment, and I went into the studio the first day, and I was like, this is so fun.
So fun.
Like the room was so fun. And when I went in, they were only seeing men to play the Bob Mackie track. And so we all like went in, did our scenes and songs, and then they kept us to do the dance movement call, and there were only 7 of us there. And then they brought me back the next day for a final callback. I think I was in the room for like 10, 15 minutes, and just like the rapport with Casey, our director, was incredible. Yes. Like it's the only audition room I walked out of and I was like, I booked that. I mean, I also like leaving the audition studio, Casey happened to ride the elevator down with me. She was going to another floor to get coffee, and when she got out on her floor, she like walked by me and she like touched my arm, and I was like, if this woman just touched me and doesn't give me the job, I was like, she has to book me now.
The mixed signal, yeah, it can be so confusing.
Yeah, but no, the audition room was like so credible, because I mean, like you said, it can be very cold. Like,
yeah, and that gives you an idea of if you want to take the job or not. Honestly, yeah. I remember thinking, I was like, well, that made me really want to do it even more so than just like the material and the prospect of touring. I was like, I want to know these women. Like,
yeah. No, I mean, getting the audition for it, I was like, oh, the Cher Show. I was like,
I knew nothing about it.
Didn't know much about it at all, and I was like, a jukebox musical about Cher? Like, what is this? And then being in the room and working with Casey, I was like, oh, these women behind the table are incredible at what they do and are so passionate about what they do. And then just like getting to work on the material with them in the room, then I was like, I want to do more.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to do more now. Bring me in, please. So yeah, it was quick for me.
Oh, I love to hear it.
Yeah.
And so talk to us, you mentioned it a little bit, Catherine, talk to us about what it takes for you to play your role, how you've studied your character's mannerisms.
Yeah, I was a YouTube girly. I'm so thankful that there's so much material out there for us to consume. And it's so fun. There are some lines in the show that they have immediately, they really just plucked from certain episodes. And I remember stumbling upon the correct episodes that I was like, oh, that's the Snow White and the Seven Dwarves line that I say. Like, that's that joke. She says it right there, like, it's slightly in a different manner. But it was so nice for me to be able to look at that. And every once in a while, if I find myself falling out of it a bit, or if I'm wondering if I'm, doing the same thing too much, I will go back and I'll watch. I'll try to find a different video of her. I'll try to find interviews of her in that time period, because she did, she has evolved so much, and like she doesn't always move the same way now as she did when, in the 70s. So I try to find like the correct era for me to watch. But yeah, as we were talking before, the hair flip was really pivotal, like important. And she always took like 2 fingers, and she would have long nails, and she would like wipe it away basically. Like she would wipe her hair away, but she also does the big one. But in the 70s that I watched, it's a lot of this. Sometimes a limp wrist, sometimes like the fist on the hip, and so I kind of find those things to root me back into who she is and feeling her stature and how. She's very, she had such confidence in herself at that time. Like she stood tall. She looked hot all the time, and she knew it. And so sometimes when I find myself not feeling as confident, I have to be like, no, you're playing Cher. You literally have to embody that. So yeah, I did that. And I also read her, one of her earlier books. She does have a new memoir coming out, which I will be reading to, reignite all of the thoughts about her and thinking about her. So, yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you do?
Well, Bob Mackey's like different in the sense that, he's not a televised public figure. There are interviews with him and everything. So going into the audition room for Bob, I was not focused on trying to do any sort of like, let me get these mannerisms down or anything. I just kind of approached it as like a normal acting scene and like a normal character and everything, which I guess was the correct approach to do it. And working on the show, I remember the first day we blocked the Ain't Nobody's Business scene. Our director was really focused on like the friendship between Bob Mackie and Cher, and she pulled up a picture of them doing an interview for the Cher Show on Broadway, and it's just like a picture of them, and they're both in their 70s, and they're like laughing together still. It's like such a sweet image. And she was like, that's like the root of the relationship between them. It's just this enduring friendship that has gone since the 60s. Like they've been friends all this time and like still work together, still collaborate together.
So cool.
Yeah, so it was, for me, it's not so much like, getting mannerisms down. It's just like focusing on the relationship.
The truth of that.
And living in, the truth.
Absolutely, I love that. And how do you get into your character's headspace?
Oh man.
I throw a wig on and a turtleneck and call it a day.
I will say, I remember at the very beginning of last year, our wig supervisor, her name is Leisha, and she does phenomenal work for us, but she said to me, she goes, you know that your whole body changes when I put your wig on? And I was like, what? And she was like, sometimes we'll be chatting and like, I'm kind of goofy, so I'll be like, hey Leisha, what's up? Like being stupid. And then she goes, when I put that wig on you, you like get taller, your face like gets longer. She's like, you like, I don't know if you realize it. And I was like, oh, I don't think I did realize that. But I will say that the physical clothes and the hair does do something to me. It's like, all right, now like that is an extra layer that, those things were so important to her about like, that's her image, and it's so iconic and people know that her look. So that is like one half of it, and the other half I do think is really getting into that headspace of like, I am a boss ass and no one can tell me anything. Like it's like she is so strong in that way, and she's just she's a confident lady. And so sometimes when I'm not feeling so confident, I just have to like really feel that and know that there's no way to play Cher unless I'm also confident myself. So I have to have to work on that and do that on stage and off.
Yeah. I think the costumes are, as far as embodying the character, they're so informative.
Super helpful.
Like, especially with the three of you, and because we're using the Bob Mackie costume design from Broadway, they're stunning.
Yeah.
And I mean, some of them, you have to.
It's a work of art. You have to hold yourself differently.
Yeah,
You can't wear a heavy beaded dress and be hunched over and kind of
Yeah.
nervous about how you look. Like, it's like you put that dress on, you're like, I am going to go out there and do what I know how to do and do it well.
Yeah, and it was so interesting. I mean, because we both did the first year of the tour last year, and then going back into rehearsals when you're not in the costumes, you're not in the shoes, you're not in the wigs, and just like getting back to those basics, it was like, oh gosh, like I feel like kind of like naked and exposed. Like I don't have these things that became so integral to, I mean, I don't know, like especially in the Robert Altman scene, that costume, the facial hair, the wig, everything,
totally puts
that
it on for you.
it so informs that scene for me. And yeah, the costumes are a really big part of it.
It really is. Yeah.
That's an interesting perspective. How do you feel as though you relate to your characters, especially since you're both playing real life people?
I will say, you know, I don't think she was always super confident. We do see that in the beginning with Babe and some struggle of being bullied and not feeling super, strong in her own skin. And then when she gets to the point of being Lady, where I kind of take over, she has to find this like agency over herself and over her career. And I just think, I think the confidence of it all is something that I've really taken away from her. And I do feel like now in my life, because I've grown so much from, thinking back to when my theater teacher was like, you should go do this. And I had no confidence in myself. I was so scared, and I was so like, oh, I don't think I could. Like, I needed someone else to tell me I could, because I didn't have that like faith in myself. Seeing, where Cher came from in a way of like having Sunny kind of, I mean, she always had that dream and she always had that ambition, so we're different in that way, but she did have this lovely support system, and then she blossomed and was able to know herself so well. And so I feel like I relate to her in that way, where I feel like I've grown a lot, and my confidence is growing every day on this tour, and will continue to do so.
Yeah. I love playing Bob Mackie because there is such a like unapologetic authenticity to him, and I think that's why he and Cher have this long-standing collaboration and friendship, is that they both like know how they want to present themselves, and they don't care what other people think. They're just gonna do it. And I remember watching an interview with him, and he talks about how someone calls him a fashion designer, and he goes, no, I'm a costume designer. He goes, I make costumes, I tell stories. And just that like confidence and like knowing who he is and like sticking to that, I love that. And that's something I try and take into my daily life. It's just like knowing who I am and being confident in it.
Exactly. Yeah. That is cool. So tell us about some behind the scenes stuff. How many costume changes do you have? How many wigs do you have to wear? Do you guys have any costumes that are hard to walk in? Like, especially as Cher?
Yes, there is. So I think I have a total of 23 costumes, 24. It's in the low 20s there. And most of those happen during Act 1. There are some songs where I change like 4 times within the number. I keep running on and off stage, and it's like, bam, another one.
Yeah.
And I have only 2 wigs. I'm pretty simple in the wig department. There is one dress that I reveal. I turn around during the Bob Mackie scene, and it, is barely covering my chest, and my belly is completely open, and it's this white beaded long number. She's tied around my hips. She's got a really long train, and I cannot take a full step, because if I do, my heel will get caught in it. So Tyler and I do have a moment backstage where when I run off stage to get that quick change done, I take my sip of water, I see Tyler backstage, he's about to move a set piece, and I join him for that transition. I lift up my dress, and I literally like I scurry over. I'm like because it's just it's too risky to have the dress on the ground and take full steps.
It's so
So
funny.
it's like a moment between us backstage that I like to try and make him laugh backstage.
It cracks me up every time.
Hearing him laugh makes me really happy. So
yeah, it's my costume track is pretty simple. I mean, I have 3 wigs, one for Bob Mackey, one for Frank, and one for Robert Altman. And Mackey, I have 3 costumes. The other characters, that's 1 per character. And Mackey, it's all just like turtlenecks and blazers, very like 70s. But the show itself, I think John Beltre, our wardrobe supervisor, said that there's about 400 costumes total in the show.
so many.
And I mean, when you break it down by like individual pieces, it's in the thousands. And the amount of feathers, rhinestones, beads in the show.
Hand beaded.
It's immaculate work. And I remember when the show was being done on Broadway, there was a sequin shortage in New York because of this. Yes, it's
didn't know that.
insane how much detail is in these costumes.
That's
and
amazing.
yeah, it's a lot of costumes. I think John said that between the 3 of you playing Cher, of those 400 costumes, it's about 100 just for the 3 of you.
Yeah, I
So
believe that.
it's a lot.
It's pretty awesome.
That is so cool. And what is the main message you hope people take from the show, especially with the thought that there's 3 versions of Cher in the show talking to each other?
Yeah, I think there's a beautiful message there that we as humans continue to grow and evolve, and we're kind of ever changing in that way. I do love the idea of the 3 Chers because when we get together, it's so beautiful when you have your younger self talking to your older self, and you know, all the different feelings and emotions you had at different stages in your life, and those don't go away. They always stay with you. But I think a major takeaway from the show is, plain and simple, is empowerment, that you can literally do anything you set your mind to, and no matter how many times you get pushed down, you can come back up stronger than ever. And we've seen that in Cher's life. Like she had a tough go around, but she kept coming back, and she kept reinventing herself and making herself new and stronger and more powerful and gorgeous and stunning and a beautiful person inside and out. But it is a beautiful thing at the very end to the mega mix is the first and only time I really get to look at the audience, and the joy that it brings many people, mainly women. Also, just really is so special. Like people leaving the show and feeling good about themselves, feeling empowered about how they look, how they act, all those things. I think it's a really important message, and she's done so much for so many different communities that there's a lot to take away.
Yeah, that's like the thing I love about this show is that you really learn so much about her and her ups and downs and her struggles. I mean, she goes from being an Oscar winner to then having to sell hairspray on infomercials because that's like the only work she can get. So it's just wild to see that she did face so much adversity but still like fought against it and came out on top. It's so inspiring. And like the whole trope of the 3 of you and like getting to talk to each other. One of my favorite scenes in the show is when Sunny is trying to get back with Cher and the older Cher tells Lady like, you tell him no. Tell him do what you couldn't do before. And so it's a lot of like healing the inner child and like
healing that younger version of you that wasn't ready to do that at the time. Yeah,
I really love the message of the show. Empowerment, I think, is, if you're going to describe it in one word, empowerment is it.
I completely agree. Is there anything else you want to bring up about the show?
Just that it's a really fun time, and even if you're not a super diehard Cher fan, you should come and see it because you will be when you leave.
Yeah.
Yes. The show
literally will be.
The show will definitely have you looking up a lot of things about Cher's life and the people connected to her. Well, again, the Cher Show is at the Dr. Phillips Center now through Sunday. I also posted the details on clickorlando.com/settingthestage. Catherine and Tyler, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.